I'm Jeff Newkirk, the host of Game Changers. I talk to people who have done something to make this world a better place. People who are working to make a significant and profound change. So it's simple. Inspire and educate, and let's go change this world. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the podcast Game Changers. This is your host, Jeff Newkirk. We've had fun already today. Terry Weaver, welcome to the podcast. Terry's been on several times, and we've had fun today because we've experienced all kinds of technical challenges that we like to call opportunity. So, Terry, great to have you here. And we're going to change things up a bit. Terry is going to actually conduct the interview, facilitate the conversation. And so I have no idea what I'm in for, but I know it's going to be a good time. So, Terry, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for having me interview you. And it's about time. I've been in the hot seat 3 times here on the podcast.
Least, yeah. Everyone's been a good conversation, though. And we appreciate you, everything you've said and everything you brought to us.
Well, thanks, man. I'm excited to be here. And I want to just let the audience know that you and I started working together as accountability partners, as sharpeners, as the Proverbs would say, at the beginning of the year.
You're a taskmaster, man.
Am I?
You are. Yeah.
Well, here's what I knew. Here's what I found out. After getting to know you and sitting down with you, I found out that you were probably in one of the toughest points in your life at that time. And you're going to be able to talk about that and share lessons learned and how you got through it and all that stuff. But I don't want to start there.
Okay.
I want to let the audience know that we started working together at one of the toughest points in your life. And I've seen you come a long way in the last 5 months. And it's cool to see.
A lot of growth.
Yeah. Let's start out with some of your accolades. And I know you wouldn't tell your audience this, but you've got a Bachelor of Business, a Master of Business Administration, and a Doctorate.
I do.
Tell us what you did for your dissertation, your doctorate.
So my dissertation was a study on management principles, and what I wanted to determine and develop was, my goal was simplification. So I wanted to go into a business and come up with one ratio that said this business is successful or not. And so I wanted to include the financial and accounting. I wanted to include marketing and sales. I wanted to include the people, all the resources, all the systems and processes. So I had metrics in each component of the business. And then I put those together to form one ratio that I called the success factor ratio. I tested it out and, it had some positive and negative. I'm not sure. It was a good starting point.
Awesome.
Good starting point.
Well, aside from that, you've got 30 years corporate experience helping run massive companies. You made it to the...
It means I'm old.
You made it to the vice president level in a major healthcare company.
Yeah.
And you're also an athlete.
100 years ago.
100 years ago, yes. Yeah, but I could tell, I asked you, I found out that you went to school in Iowa and that you grew up in the Midwest, and I asked you if you were a wrestler because you look like a wrestler.
Yeah. Yes, I wrestled.
Yeah. Your neck is about as big as my quad. It'd be hard to get you in a headlock.
Well, I do what I can.
So, I want to start in the south side of Chicago. Tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Yeah, so I grew up in south suburbs, in a suburb called Lansing. Most of the folks there, blue collar. My dad worked at a hospital on the south side, East 93rd Street. If you went there today, it's a pretty rough neighborhood. And even where I grew up is not the same as it was 30, 40 years ago or 50 years ago. But it was a nice neighborhood, good friends, good family life, or, good home, good parents.
Do you have takeaways from your childhood, from where you grew up?
So I had a pretty good childhood, really. One of the things and I've talked about this on the podcast, when I was 13, I lost 2 of my best friends in a car accident, and things went downhill from there. But prior to that, played baseball, football, you name it, always outside. And I think the big takeaway is family structure. We had a family of 4. I have 1 sister, and we did a lot together as a family. And so one of the great memories that I'll stick with me forever, my dad had season tickets to White Sox games. And so every Sunday when they were at home, we went to a White Sox game.
Nice.
So yeah, it was fun.
You ever seen the Big Hurt play?
Yeah, I went to the games back in the late 70s and 80s, but Big Hurt was after that. But
yeah,
I saw him play.
Well, you're very interested in leadership and you write about leadership.
Yes.
So where did that start? Was there someone that modeled that for you in your adolescence?
For me growing up, he was dad, right? So I didn't really think much of what he did at work because I really didn't know until I got older. He was a disciplinarian, but he was also very loving and compassionate. But when I got older, I realized how well respected he was. And I remember he golfed. So he was in golf outings, I should say, not tournaments. But at one golf outing I went to, this is when I was in high school, one of the guys there, I don't even remember what he did. I mean, he was probably worked in Bender or something. But anyway, he took me aside and he said, your dad's pretty influential. I was like, yeah, he's a good guy. He's like, no, your dad is very influential and well respected. You need to know that, and you need to respect him. I was like, dang, yes, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
So, he got all kinds of awards and yeah, very well respected guy. He was the one I looked to. He was my mentor.
So let's talk about education.
Okay.
Let's talk about lessons learned through your education. Was there anything that stands out, a professor, a course that you took that has really left a mark on you that contributes to who you are today?
When I think of influential teachers and professors, there's a couple that stick out, but one is in high school. And this was after my friends were killed. And so this was my freshman year in high school. And I went out for the football team. And he was handing out jerseys. I wanted number 34, Walter Payton. I was a running back and a linebacker. And so he was handing out the numbers and he gave me number 41. I was like, Coach, I don't want number 41. He's like, Newkirk, you got 41. I'm like, I don't want 41. He's like, Newkirk, you got 41. Stop. I go, okay. And then afterwards, he pulled me aside and he said, you know why I gave you 41? I said, no, I don't. He said, you ever hear of Brian Piccolo? I was like, yeah. He was number 41. I was number 41 in college too. Every year I give player that has the most potential, number 41. Wear number 41. I was like, okay, I will. I wore number 41. I wore it proudly.
Tell us a little bit about Brian Piccolo for people who don't know.
Brian Piccolo was a running back for the Chicago Bears with Gale Sears back in the 60s. And he died of cancer early, but his work ethic and what he brought to the team and how he interacted with Gale Sears was phenomenal. And they really made history by having a black player, Gale Sears, and a white player, Brian Piccolo, live together, work together. And they basically became the best of friends and set an awesome, incredible example for the rest of us. So I was proud to wear number 41, just like Brian Piccolo, because he was an incredible human being whose life was cut short.
Yeah. Did that have anything to do with your buddies who passed away in that car accident?
I don't know. Everybody knew. I mean, it was not something that you could hide from not knowing because it was a big deal in the community. I was on a baseball team and we traveled to Southern Illinois for a tournament. And my friends weren't on the team, but we grew up together. I mean, literally since crawling. I mean, we were next door neighbors. Like, for example, when I was 2, I was staying, I don't know what it was, but I was staying at their house. And so I wasn't the sharpest 2-year-old. So I ate a cricket. But the cricket got stuck, but my best friend's mother saved my life. She saw that I was choking, turning blue, and did the Heimlich on me and saved my life.
Wow.
So anyway, we were very close as family and friends. And so they weren't on this team, but I was like, guys, you got to be here. This is a big deal. This is a big tournament. And my friend's parents were like, no, that's a long drive. No need to go there. We'll hear about it. And so finally convinced them. And so they made the drive. And it was two of my best friends, and one of them's my best friend's mother, and they were all killed in a car accident on the way to the game. And so that was devastating. Devastated the community, totally put me into a bad state for many years.
I haven't lost a whole lot of people who were close to me like you have. I did lose my grandma back in 2020. And I remember the thought that I was hit with was, man, life is short and I have to value these people in my life. And I have to value every day that I have. Did that happen with you at that age?
I want to say yes, but it wasn't until later. I went through all kinds of different emotions. I wasn't able to sleep at night. I was angry. I was an angry teenager and did stupid things, acting out. And my parents didn't know what to do with me. So it took a long time for me to wrestle with that.
Yeah.
Because I blame myself.
Sure.
So,
well, for anybody, I don't want to move past this topic of loss, but for anybody who's lost somebody that they've loved, maybe a best friend or a family member, what would you say to them?
You're not in it alone. Get help. There's no way that you can process that on your own. And the thing that I learned from it is that it will stick with you, and you have to know that it will, but it's how you deal with it. And don't expect you to be able to do it on your own, because you can't.
Yeah.
Even to this day, shoot, that was 40 some years ago. I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Wow. Let's talk about your 3 decades in corporate America.
Okay.
Now, I don't know that anyone can.
It sounds like a long time.
It
3
does.
decades.
That's an accomplishment, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about lessons learned, what the good, the bad, but lessons that you took away from it.
Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so emphatic about leadership, because I've spent time in the corporate environment and I've seen people in, quote, leadership positions who think they're leaders, but they are not leaders at all. They're running a business. They may own a business. They may be in a management position where they're responsible for people, but that doesn't mean they're leading anybody. Leading does not equal management. Management does not equal leadership. Some of the best leaders that I've seen are in non-management positions, people that have influenced somebody else, somebody who has impacted a group of people to, move in the right direction or progress forward in some way. Influencing others, that's what makes a leader. And that's cool to see. And I saw too many that were not positively influencing the masses. And so that's why I get so emphatic about leadership.
Well, I can tell when we started talking about leadership, you came alive there. You said, I get emphatic about talking about leadership.
Yeah, because it is something that we need, right? We need it in corporate. We need it in our community. We need it in our country. Big time. We don't have people stepping forward and leading and saying, hey, it's okay to win, be proud of it. It's okay to lose, learn from it, move forward.
Yeah. What do we do about that? What does the listener do about that problem we have today?
Make a difference.
How?
Absolutely go out and make a difference. Get involved. Get involved in your community. Get involved in your organization and stand up for what's right. Be appropriately vocal. What I mean by that is be vocal, but you don't have to go out and cause trouble or be violent in any. That's not what I'm saying at all. Not at all. But go out and make a point. Go out and speak up about what you think is right and get people to listen.
Yeah.
To move in the right direction.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you will be steamrolled. It's happening every day. We see it every day.
Yeah. I shared a quote with you that I heard the other day from Matthew McConaughey. And every once in a while, he'll say something that catches me and I go, wow, man, that's wise. And I believe he is a wise guy. But he said, I'd rather be a good man than a nice guy. And so at some point, we've got to choose between being a nice guy and everybody being okay with us and being a good person and potentially offending people.
Amen.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm saying that for my own benefit too, because it is much easier to play the nice guy, right? I can tell you many, many times that I've said to myself, well, I don't want to offend them. I've always taken the high road as much as possible because I don't want to offend anybody. But, sometimes it's okay to offend.
Yeah.
The older I get, I think especially what I see going on in our country, we need to sometimes offend somebody.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's how we get moving in the right direction, the correct direction, make progress.
Give me an example of good leadership that you've experienced in corporate.
Good leadership. Okay. So let me think about this for a second.
And you had 3 decades of experience.
I know.
Pull a nugget out of there that everybody can benefit from.
Yeah. I reported to an executive vice president at a hospital. This was many years ago. I met with him every week. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to provide him with all the necessary information that I thought was necessary for him to make good decisions in his role. So I had a responsibility for a business unit in the hospital. So I had responsibility for people. I had a responsibility for P&L and profit and loss statement. And so I would come to him every week with this great report that I put together, and never did he look at it. Not one time. Like, he would take it from me and put it off to the side. And like after the 4th or 5th one, he finally said, "Newkirk, you don't get it." And I said, "No, I don't get it. This is like the greatest report and you're not looking at it." He said, "I don't want you to give me a report. I want you to talk to me." And I was like, oh, okay. And so what he was teaching me was people communicate in different ways. And yes, the information in the report that I put together was important, but you need to be able to communicate with people verbally and tell them what's going on in your business, how you're making progress, what are your challenges. And not everybody wants to just read a report. So then I can go from him, who I reported to, and give that report out in a presentation to the board or whatever. And it was a great learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And to this day, we're still friends, and he's always been a great mentor.
Awesome. Let's talk about the next chapter of your life, business startup.
Yeah.
Why and how tough was it?
Why? So the why is it's like fulfilling my purpose, right? So for 30 some years in the corporate environment, and I had some great jobs, I did pretty well, able to provide for the family, but I never woke up with this, man, I'm really glad I'm doing this today. Man, I'm excited to get to work and crank out these reports or whatever it is. But what I did get excited about was when I had a chance to mentor somebody, when I had a chance to see somebody grow in their own position. I always loved it when somebody that I was responsible for their position, and I saw them grow and learn, and then they move on to a bigger position. They got promoted or decided to move on to another organization because they got some growth opportunity. That was awesome for me. And so I knew that I had to get out and do my own thing, that the corporate structure it just wasn't working for me. And so the why was I had to do my own thing. I had to go out and be able to consult. And I never used the term coach, but I guess, I do coach people now in businesses, but I always saw it as a way to consult and mentor, guide, and support. And that's what I want to do. I want to do it on my own terms. So when my dad passed away in 2018, I was the primary caregiver for him for many years. Our kids were getting older, and time was right. So that's when we started. And I say we, as Diana and I made the decision together. So that was why. The challenges, well, who knew that the pandemic was going to be right around the corner, right? So I started my own business in 2019. And in March of 20, what were we told? Stay home. Don't go out. You can't meet anybody. You can't open the doors for business. You have to stay at home. That's crazy. So at that point, I could have said, God didn't want me to do this. I guess it was a mistake. But I never once for a second thought that. Instead, I thought God was saying, how bad do you want this, Jeff? Is this something that you really want to do? And I was like, hell yeah. This is exactly what I want to do. This is my purpose. I'm going to make a difference. Just watch. So,
yeah. And you are, man. I see you in the community. And you're not a guy that goes around and boasts about your education or experience or anything like that. What you do is you go around and you invest in people and you help business owners and you help individuals. And I see that and other people see that. So
I love it. I love to do that. You know? And I've always been of the mindset, and this is one of my leadership absolutes, you've got to have some humility. And I never, ever been one to talk about, I just don't like talking about myself. And it doesn't matter what you've done in your background and what education you have. It's what you bring to the table today and the value that you can provide and give. That's really it. That's it. Nobody cares about what you've done, how many degrees you have, or what you've done in your background, your experience. It's what can you do today to add value and to improve things. And that's what I try to emphasize.
What I do recognize, though, is you brag about other people, not in a boastful way, but you talk about other people's accomplishments. I've seen that in the podcast. You are a promoter of other people.
Well, I love to do that. I mean, I would be remiss, and you're going to get mad at me right now, but I would be remiss if I didn't say and let everybody know that you won a Best Actor award. That is awesome.
Thank you.
Dude, that's awesome. I know you're giving me the look like, why did you say that? But you have to be proud of that.
Thank you. So, okay.
All right, I'll stop.
Let's move to what keeps you going.
Okay.
Now, you don't wake up on fire every morning.
No.
But
today was one of those. I told you. Yeah, I did not wake up, jumped out of bed, and was like, okay, let's go. So.
But what keeps you going? Because one of the things you've repeated to me, and I know you repeat to other people, is our best is yet to come. What keeps you saying that?
Because I truly believe that. I truly believe the best is yet to come. And it's all in our head. If we accept the mindset that we are in a growth situation, that we are all about getting better, improving, adding value, making a difference, then we can. If we truly believe it, we can make it happen. Which also means if we truly believe, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't feel very good about the direction I'm heading. You know what? Then it's not going to be good because you had that negative mindset. So every morning when I get up, it's not always birds chirping, rainbows and unicorns and butterflies. It's all right. Today's a day to make it happen. It's up to me. Let's go. Let's do it. And sometimes I have to kick myself in the ass to make it happen, and today was one of those days. I was sluggish, but we're here and we're making it happen.
We are. And I read through your 15 absolutes of leadership and I absolutely love them.
Cool.
They're fantastic.
Cool.
One of the things you talk about is trust. You talk about influence. And I think I read a quote from Confucius that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
That's right.
Yeah. And that's where that comes from. It's all about our belief. And I think Henry Ford repeated that, and he gets attributed that often. But
one of the first times I heard that, my son was in wrestling. He did youth wrestling. And so I picked him up from a practice. I got there a little early and just watching. And at the end, the coach called everybody in. And so he was like, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10 at the time. And I remember the coach saying, remember this, you either can or you can't. You decide which one. And so later in the car on the way home, I'm like, hey, Peyton, you understand what your coach meant by that? He's like, yeah. Like, well, okay, well, what do you mean? Well, we can decide to either we can do something or we can decide that we don't want to do it. And then if we feel negative, and that means that it's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm like, yeah. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Always stuck with me.
Yeah. You know why I think I like you, Jeff? And the reason I'm drawn, do you know why? You want to take a guess?
I don't.
I think I'm
glad, but I don't know.
I think I like you because you're a front lines guy.
I'm not sure what that means.
Okay. Well, you're not afraid. You're not afraid to jump in the fight, man.
No.
You're not afraid to be on the front lines, duking it out with the people that are out front. And I think leaders
Yeah,
They
that's
got
what
to
it
be up front.
takes.
Yeah.
You got to get out there and mix it up with the people that are doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how are they going to feel that what they're doing is meaningful unless there's somebody there to jump in with them and say, hey, man, what you're doing is super important.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that you're doing this. I'm proud of you. I appreciate you. Let's go together.
Yeah. Well, I think we talk about the values in your life, and I've read them. Like I said, we're accountability partners, and I know your values, and your values start with faith. So touch on that for a second.
Yeah, I think we all need a foundation, right? We all need some higher power that we're accountable to. And for me, I'm a Christian. And that means that I have faith that Jesus died on the cross to save our sins. And I'm going to do everything I can to be the best Christian I can be. Now, that said, I'm not very good at it. I've got a lot of growth. But good news is I have a wife at home that's a whole lot better than me, and she keeps me on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
So, but it's so important. Faith, I think it all starts there, because another one of my absolutes is having a good heart, right? Making sure that your moral compass is pointed in the right direction. You know the difference between right and wrong. And how can you have that unless you have a strong faith? That's going to be pretty challenging for you to have that good heart unless you know that you're accountable to a higher power.
Good stuff, man.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you 100%. Tell me about integrity and why that's so important to you.
You're as good as your word.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to do something, then do it. If you don't think you can, then say you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all challenged. I mean, I've been challenged many times in my life, professionally and personally. And it's cost me big time dollars,
Yeah.
And I've been put in situations where I could have easily taken the easy road, and I didn't. And it cost me financially. It cost me maybe in some friendships. But I know at the end of the day, if I look at myself in the mirror, I can say that I did the right thing. And even more important, look at my kids and say, I've set a good example for them. Look at my wife and say, I've always done the right thing by you. I feel pretty good about that.
Yeah. I opened with saying that when we started meeting together as accountability partners, you were going through one of your toughest times in life. And I just assumed that because of what you told me. It was one of the toughest periods of your life. Tell the audience, the listeners, as much or as little about that challenge you went through at the end of last year that brought you into 2023 and what you learned from it.
Yeah. So I think the challenge was really, how bad do I want to have my own business? How badly do I want to continue on this path that I'm on? Because I've been thrown for a couple of curveballs, if you will. So at that time, it was, for whatever reason, it really knocked me. I was like, maybe this isn't the right direction. And so financially, of course, it wasn't great. But so my wife is always she's like the perfect go-to when there's always like a question or a doubt. Because she'll look at me and she'll say, why do you even question that? Like, I don't understand why you're even questioning that. And I'll be like, well, because, I wouldn't even get the sentence out. She'll be like, no, you're doing the exact right thing. You know that you're doing the right thing. Go forward,
Mm-hmm.
And it was somebody else that also mentioned to me, you have a great strength and you have a great weakness. Your strength is your intuition is spot on. Like 99% of the time, your first thought, you are pretty much right every time. But you doubt yourself. That's your greatest weakness. And so after you think you have it figured out, then you go back and say, maybe not. And I was like, son of a, that's true. That's true. And so the reflection back to that time period, yes, I'm out doing the right thing. Yes, I'm living out my purpose, and the future, the best is yet to come. And I'm going to stick to what my intuition tells me. And if my intuition tells me do this, then I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to look back. I'm not going to question it, because that's what tell other people to do. I got to practice what I preach. So yeah, it was a tough time. It was challenging, but the best is yet to come. I truly believe that.
Well, over the past 5 months, I've seen you put that into action and believe and move forward despite the big challenge that you were faced with last year.
Yeah.
And I know that you were knocked for a loop and you didn't talk about why or the specifics.
No.
Yeah, but you were, and I've seen you recover. And I believe that the best is yet to come.
Thanks. Yeah.
And that's because you believe that.
Yes, I truly do in my heart. I truly do. But I also say, I hate using that word, but, because there's always something negative. Once you say a sentence, the first part of the sentence is positive, and then you say, but, then it's going to be negative. But that said, you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
Right? So you and I working together has been really, really impactful for me. And I can't thank you enough for what you've done for me and to keep me head up and focused and moving forward, because it's a great reminder that you need your trusted advisors in your corner, because we can't do this alone and we can't expect to do it alone.
Right.
And for the listeners out there, they're like, I don't need any trusted advisors. I'm good. That's so.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Some of the most important people in my life have been coaches like yourself. And you remind me a lot of my friend Bob Koenig, who invested a lot in me and was a great friend. And I know you're that kind of person to a lot of people, including me.
Thank you. Means a lot.
Let's end talking about Game Changers, your podcast.
Yeah.
I want to first start with why you started it.
I started it back in March of 20, and it was originally called The Forensic Financialist. I started the podcast because the coach that I was working with at the time, who I respected very much, said, you need to build awareness about your business. I think you'd be great at a podcast. To which I responded, no, I'm not going to do a podcast. That's not my comfort zone. And she said, well, you know what? You got to get out of your comfort zone. That's the only way you grow. And I was like, man, again, I got to practice what I preach. So I started the podcast. 3 years later, recorded about 90 episodes now. It's called Game Changers. It's really picked up some speed now, some momentum, and I love it. I absolutely love doing this. And the reason I love it is because I get to meet people like you and get to know people like you who have made a difference in their lives, made a difference in their community. And that's what Game Changers is all about. So it's not about business. If business topic comes to the table, that's fine. We'll talk about it. But it is about inspiring people to go out and make a difference, educate them on how, and let's go and make this world a better place. It's simple. Inspire, educate, let's go.
Yeah. You do a good job with it and you do things with excellence. So if people are just hearing this podcast for the first time, because I'm going to share it out to my network, you need to go find the Game Changers podcast with Jeff Newkirk.
Yes.
It's awesome. A good one.
Yeah. And the website is gamechangerswithjeff.com. My business website is understandablesolutions.com. Links to the Game Changers podcast there as well. And it's on every podcast platform that I'm aware of anyway. Audible, Google, iTunes, you name it.
Yeah.
Spotify.
And in a couple sentences, tell people what you do for business owners and leaders.
So for business owners, it's really about helping them improve with their business in either operational or financial performance, and helping them to grow personally and professionally, to be a better person, to be of more value to their business, to their clients, to humanity. And that's what it's all about.
Beautiful. I want to end with one more question.
Fire away. This has been great, by the way. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome. You believe that belief is what it takes to do things, right?
Yes.
So where is Jeff Newkirk in 3 years from now?
Oh, yeah. Jeff Newkirk in 3 years is making more of an impact. And it's all systems go, man. I mean, I'm going all out to make this happen. And what I mean by that is I love coaching. I love consulting because I see the impact that I can make. But now we have to, as Grant Cardone puts it, 10X it. We have to really grow it, influence the masses, because the only way we can make a difference in this world is to take action. And I'm going to take as much action as I can to make that happen. help people do things the right way, make a difference in this world.
Beautiful. Any final thoughts you want to share?
Just grateful to be doing the podcast, grateful to know people like you. And I think if we truly believe it, the best is yet to come.
Beautiful.
Hey, Terry, thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank my sponsor, Magic Mind. I don't know if you've ever tried it, Terry, but this is good stuff, man. It's like 2-3 ounces of green gold. So it's a green drink, but it's all kinds of super ingredients in here. Matcha, bacopa. I can't even pronounce some of this stuff. But what it does is it gives you focus and energy throughout the day. So I just drink it with my coffee in the morning. And it's good stuff. Magic Mind. It can be found at magicmind.com. Thankful to them for being a sponsor of Game Changers. So, listeners, thank you so much for listening. Today was a great day. Tomorrow will be even better. Peace, everyone. Find out more about the show at GameChangersWithJeff.com. And make sure you're following Game Changers on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are everywhere. Never miss an episode. We appreciate you listening. Grateful for your following.